There are some Christian racialists who point out that the Bible warns against intermarriage, but they apply these warnings to their stupid made-up categories or races, quote-unquote. God told the Israelites not to marry Canaanites, Ammonites, and later Moabites, Egyptians, etc. But the problem for racialists is that these are nations or ethnicities and not these color/continent/phenotype groups called races. If racialists want to use the Bible to teach a doctrine of some eternal biological law against intermarriage, they would have to be actually consistent and apply this to the nations of today, such as the Irish, the Germans, the Italians, and the English. So they would have to condemn the so-called white Americans as being guilty of mass intermarriage. But instead, these racialists want to focus on categories that don't exist in the Bible. The intermarriage warned about in the Bible was even about immediate surrounding neighbor nations, not distant nations. Some were even of Abraham, such as the Midianites, and Semites, such as the Moabites, children of Abraham's nephew. Analogous it would be if, say, England was Israel, and they were warned against marrying the Irish, the Germans, the Danish, the French, and Scottish people, the surrounding nations. But focusing on these color/continent groups instead, which are not mentioned in the Bible, they being obsessed with color groups, it ignores the intermarriage between actual nations. So just look at America. No effort was made to ban the mass intermarriage between the Irish, Germans, and English. No color was given the Moabites, Canaanites, or Midianites. They all probably looked similar to the Israelites. Yet, they were actual nations, and the intermarriage warnings had to do with culture, not genes. And it was to preserve the integrity of the religion, not DNA percentages of phenotypes. This is often mentioned in the very next verses after the intermarriage warnings in the Bible. You can't just make up your own categories and read them into the scriptures. Races are not nations or ethnicities. White people, quote-unquote, or Europe is not a nation, in case you forgot. Africa is not a nation. If you think the Russians, the Portuguese, and the Irish are one people, then you're an idiot. It would be like if I decided that the Americas, North and South, are all one nation, and I said that the Bible is against us Eurasians marrying you Canadians and Brazilians and Americans, leaving the Canadians, Mexicans, and Brazilians to freely intermarry, apparently. Or it would be like if I said that the Bible teaches against intermarriage, so therefore people with long ears should not marry people with short ears, because God is against it. No, I just made up a division of humanity that is first of all nowhere to be found in Scripture, and second, a division that is quite stupid and arbitrary. US Americans are all of one nation and culture, so why should they have to divide over skin color and facial phenotypes? About a third of the so-called Black American men are even direct genetic patrilineal descendants of so-called white men, yet are somehow seen by some racialists as more foreign than Irish immigrants who came less than 150 years ago. Yet racialists want to divide a nation over arbitrary phenotype distinctions and arbitrary continent divisions that sometimes don't even match each other, instead of based on nationalism. So the Christian racialists I mentioned are hypocrites and not applying the scriptures properly. Ironically, they are like the Pharisee legalists, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Intermarriage between color/continent groups or races goes back to colonial laws, not biblical exegesis. Jesus said in Matthew 15, verse 9, "But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men." Reading color groups or races into the Bible, instead of nations reading it properly, is teaching your own doctrine from your own culture, as if that was biblical.